When we think of Valentine's Day, we usually picture heart-shaped boxes, overpriced roses, and maybe a bit of a frantic rush to find a dinner reservation. It feels like this shiny, modern Hallmark invention, doesn't it? But if you peel back the layers of history, the story is actually incredibly cinematic, and honestly, a bit of a mystery. We talk about Saint Valentine as if he's this one specific guy, but the truth is, even the church is a little hazy on who he actually was. There are at least 3 different men named Valentinus mentioned in early history, all of whom were martyred in the 3rd century. One was a priest in Rome, another was a bishop in a place called Terni, and a third died in Africa. The one thing they all had in common was this stubborn, unflinching commitment to their beliefs, even when it cost them everything. But the legend we've all come to love, the rebel priest, is where it gets really interesting. There's this beautiful, tragic detail often left out of the standard cards. The story goes that while Valentine was in prison, he didn't just write a goodbye note, he actually performed a miracle. The jailer's daughter, a girl named Julia, was blind, and through his faith and prayers, Valentine supposedly restored her sight. Imagine the impact that had. The entire family converted on the spot. Of course, that kind of influence didn't sit well with the emperor, and it's likely what sealed his fate. If you ever find yourself in Rome, you can actually see the physical remnants of this legend. In the Basilica of Santa Maria, there's an ancient skull decorated with a crown of roses with Saint Valentine written across the forehead. It's a haunting, strangely poetic image, this literal symbol of death surrounded by the ultimate symbols of love. Now, you're probably wondering how a story about a public execution and a skull in a church turned into a day for buying chocolates. For centuries, Valentine was just a religious martyr, not a romantic icon. The shift actually started with literature, specifically with the English poet Geoffrey Chaucer in the 14th century. He was the one who first linked Valentine's Day to the mating season of birds in one of his poems, and suddenly the idea of love in the air during mid-February took hold. It was the poets, not the priests, who turned a somber religious anniversary into a celebration of romance. By the 1800s, people were sending intricate, handmade letters, but they were expensive and took forever to make. That all changed because of a woman named Esther Howland. In the 1840s, she became the mother of the American Valentine by figuring out how to mass-produce these cards using lace and fine paper. Suddenly, romance was accessible to everyone, not just the elite. Once the door to commercialization was open, the 20th century giants walked right through. Hallmark started mass printing cards in 1913, turning the day into a social must-do. Then the chocolate makers like Cadbury and Hershey's realized that love and sugar were a perfect match, marketing those heart-shaped boxes we see everywhere today. Even the tradition of the diamond engagement ring being tied to this season was largely a masterclass in advertising by De Beers. It's fascinating how this rebel priest's legacy has morphed into a global phenomenon that transcends religion and geography. In places like Japan, they've even put their own spin on it. On February 14th, it's traditionally the women who buy chocolates for the men, and then exactly 1 month later, on White Day, the men are expected to return the favor. From a Roman prison cell to a global commercial juggernaut, the story of Valentine is really a story of how humans are constantly looking for a reason to connect, to rebel against the mundane, and, of course, to celebrate the messy, beautiful thing we call love. It makes you wonder what the original Valentine would think if he could see us now, wouldn't it?